after you're done with your heart attack, you need exercise. I've seen her in action. She's terrific. Maria Miccio was a cardiac physiologist, exercise physiologist at the New York Hospital Queens Cardiac Health Center. She has left some things behind, talking about balance, strength, and flexibility classes that are available there at 1 o'clock on Wednesdays and Fridays at a very low cost, and a booklet describing what goes on there in general. Maria?
Thank you, Dr. Bright. Thank you, Dr. Bustakakis. And I say thank you again because I see a lot of his patients come our way. But I'm here actually to talk to you about trying to prevent that. Just come see us anyway before you go see him. Or you don't want to have to see him. So come see us first. Back a little bit, in a little bit. Okay. So I have a question for all of you. If there was one prescription that could prevent and treat dozens of diseases such as diabetes, hypertension, obesity, heart disease, would you want that prescription? Would you want Dr. Bustakakis to write you a prescription for that? Well, I'm here to tell you that it's exercise. And I'm very passionate on this subject. Exercise is medicine. When you go see a doctor these days, hopefully a doctor is going to ask you about your physical activity or whether you're exercising. Back in 2007, the American College of Sports Medicine launched a program called Exercise is Medicine. And it was designed so that doctors would start addressing the fact that people are physically inactive. And this was brought about 7 years ago, and I'm hoping that when you go to the doctor, do any of you ever go to the doctors, Dr. Bright? Do you ask about, are you active, are you physically active? What do? Do you exercise? I hope so. I really hope so. And I think that we are tending to move into that direction more and more. This is a slide from JAMA back in 2004, again, almost 10 years ago, and it's showing you causes of death. Causes of death in the United States from tobacco use, about 18%. This is almost 10 years ago. From poor diet and physical inactivity, it almost equals the number of deaths that are associated with tobacco. And that's because you're physically inactive or you have a poor diet. And then nothing else really compares. So we have to address that fact that we're becoming very physically inactive. There are tremendous health benefits seen with even low levels of exercise. You don't have to go out and run a marathon, the New York City Marathon. I don't even really recommend that, to be honest. But you do have to just start exercising, and being consistent with your exercise is the most important thing of all. Regular physical activity at the correct intensity, and we'll talk about that later, reduces your risk of heart disease by 40%, lowers stroke risk by 27%. This is why we're stopping it before. Reduces the incidence of diabetes by almost 50%, reduces the incidence of high blood pressure by almost 50%, recurrent breast cancer by 50%, colon cancer risk by 60%, Alzheimer's disease 1/3, and decreases even depression more effectively than Prozac, which is pretty interesting. And that's all exercise. The evidence is overwhelming. The benefits of exercise in the treatment and prevention of chronic diseases is undeniable. So, this little chart here is just an example of how our physical activity has changed in the last 30 years. These are just some numbers put together of just daily living activities that 30 years ago we used to do on our own, such as ironing and vacuuming. Now we have somebody else doing our cleaning most of the time. Washing and slicing vegetables. Now we buy them pre-cut. All of those activities burn calories. Walking the dog. Now we open the back door. I just moved to Long Island and I'm culprit of that. I open my back door for my dog instead of taking him for a walk. Walking up 3 flights of stairs. Now most of the time we're taking elevators. So if you look at just those few activities, it's about 300 calories that we're no longer expending, that we used to do 30 years ago. And we can go on and on. I often think of in our car. How about in your car? You don't even roll the window down anymore, right? You press buttons. Think of that all the time. That's calories that we don't expend anymore. So now we need to really concentrate on moving our bodies. Did anybody ever hear of the National Weight Control Registry? Has anybody heard of them? It's a registry that puts people together into this group that have lost weight, at least 30 pounds, and have maintained it for at least a year. And I'm sure most of you here have lost weight, gained weight, right? You've been on a diet, comes back on. Well, this weight registry group here is all people that have been able to maintain it, and that's much harder than even losing it. So these are just certain things that people have in common that are in that registry. And we'll get to the most important one, of course, at the bottom. But eating breakfast every day, and we have always been told you have to eat breakfast every single day. Well, 78% of the people in that weight registry eat breakfast every day. 75% weigh themselves at least once a week, because that makes you accountable for your weight. A lot of people don't even realize when the pounds are creeping on, and then you get on and you jump off. We see that all the time at the Cardiac Health Center. 62% watch less than 10 hours of TV a week. That's huge. And 90, I know I have a fancy pointer, but 90% exercise an average of 1 hour a day. That's incredible, because that's definitely the reason why these people are keeping their weight off. Some of the benefits of regular, now remember, regular physical activity and or exercise is an improvement in cardiovascular and respiratory function. Our heart gets stronger, our lungs get stronger when we exercise. A reduction in coronary artery disease risk, which we've talked about. And that's because exercise will affect each one of those modifiable risk factors. When you exercise, you will lower your blood pressure. And that is something you can see the numbers. When you come into the Cardiac Health Center, we take your blood pressure. You exercise. When you leave, we take your blood pressure again. And every time you will see your systolic, the top number of your blood pressure, go down. It may go down 10 points, it may go down 50 points, which we've seen. And that will last throughout the day. Some studies say up to 12 hours that response will go on. So that's why daily exercise is so important too, in helping to regulate your blood pressure. Then of course, it helps with obesity, because the more you exercise, the more you keep your weight down. Cholesterol, it will lower your total cholesterol and will raise that happy HDL cholesterol that we want high. And it is proven that it will raise that HDL cholesterol, and that's the good one. And we remember it always as happy cholesterol is HDL and lousy cholesterol is LDL. So you want the lousy one low and the happy one high. And of course, it decreases morbidity and mortality. So other benefits, decrease anxiety and depression. They talked about it, reducing depression better than Prozac. And the reason for that is when you exercise, your brain secretes a neurotransmitter called serotonin, which is a mood elevator. You actually feel better. You know when they talk about runner's high? I run. I don't really get that runner's high. I do feel better after I run. My kids will even tell me if I'm in a crabby mood, Ma, go run, go. And then I come back and I'm usually singing and happy, and it's just proven. And it's not just in our heads, but it is in our heads. It's a serotonin level being elevated. Enhanced physical function and independent living in older people. We have people at the Cardiac Health Center well into their 80s, and we have more and more 90-year-olds that are exercising 3 days a week. You would not believe it unless you saw it. And this is, they're independent, they're living on their own, and that's the way I know I want to get older. So I'm going to keep exercising. Enhanced feelings of well-being. You just feel better when you exercise, for all those other reasons too. Reduce risk of fall and injuries from falls in older people. That's one of the things we always try to prevent as we get older. When someone has a fall in their old age, what happens? You see a decline. And Dr. Bright talked about the balance class. I actually teach it on Wednesdays and Fridays. And actually, my average age, I think, is 87 in that class. But we do strength training with weights. We do standing exercises to increase our muscles in our hips. And we do balance exercises. And I am not treating them any different than I treat my 60-year-olds in the evening. So, or my 50s, or my 40-year-olds. So it really does help prevent falls. Prevention of mitigation of functional limitations in older adults, and effective therapy for many chronic diseases in all adults. So, how do we design an effective exercise program? I'm sure everybody here has said, I'm going to start exercising, or you know somebody that says, I'm going to start exercising. And what do? They get the new gym clothes, they go join a gym, or they go outside and they start exercising, and they exercise every day for a week. Maybe the second day, the next week, they're going to exercise every day for the week, and then what do I hear? Oh, I have this pain in my calf, I can't do this anymore, I don't feel good, I've caught a cold, because they're not doing it the right way. So I'm here today to talk to you about exercising the right way. We use the guidelines from the American College of Sports Medicine. Everything is science and evidence-based when it comes to the American College of Sports Medicine. So when you hear all these gimmicks and infomercials on TV, just turn your head. The American College of Sports Medicine is all evidence-based information. So we use an acronym, FIT, F-I-T-T, in order to design a well-balanced fitness program. F, the first F is for frequency. How many times a week should you exercise? The second is intensity. Should we work out moderately? Should we work out vigorously? What does moderate mean? What does vigorous mean? Time. How many hours a week should we exercise that's going to improve our fitness level or help us to lose weight? And the type or the mode of exercise, which are cardiovascular endurance, strength training, flexibility, and balance. That's a full fitness program. So let's talk about frequency first. 3 to 5 days a week is recommended by the American College of Sports Medicine, or most of the days of the week, which you'll hear very often. Now, 3 days a week will improve your fitness profile. If you exercise 5 days a week, you'll see even a greater improvement. But if you exercise more than 5 days a week, you'll actually see a plateau and, okay, I went ahead, sorry. If you exercise more than 5 days a week, very often, it doesn't make you feel better, you start feeling worse because you're not giving your body a chance to recover from the exercise. Also, when you overtrain and overdo, it brings your immune system down, and then you're more susceptible to things that are out there and around. It makes you stop your program, which is what we want to avoid. Vigorous intensity exercise performed more than 5 days a week, this is what I was just saying, may increase the incidence of injury. This amount of physical activity is not generally recommended for most adults. You can all relax. You don't have to exercise 7 days, but 3 to 5 is perfect. So the bottom line, moderate intensity aerobic exercise done at least 5 days per week, or vigorous intensity aerobic exercise done at least 3 days a week, or a combination of the two, which is what I recommend, which I do myself. So 3 to 5 days, 3 maybe are going to be more vigorous, and 2 days of moderate activity. And that's to achieve and maintain health and fitness benefits. Now let's talk about intensity. Minimum exercise intensity for adults to achieve, again, health and fitness. Moderate intensity is 40 to 60% of heart rate reserve. That's a fancy way of saying you want to get your heart rate up. So exercise that noticeably increases your heart rate and breathing, because when you exercise, your demand for oxygen goes up. I love when people say to me, I'm sweating, I'm breathing too hard. Well, you're breathing harder because you need that oxygen to get to your muscles. So you are going to breathe heavier, your heart rate is going to go up, your blood pressure even goes up while you're exercising. While you're exercising, that's a normal response to exercise. And you are going to sweat, because that's a byproduct of exercise. Not a problem while you're exercising. Vigorous intensity exercise, greater than 60% heart rate reserve, is exercise that results in substantial increase in heart rate and breathing. Now, a good rule of thumb to use, if you don't have cardiovascular disease and you're starting an exercise program, if you raise your heart rate from resting, so you want to know your resting heart rate, so you can take that on your own, or somebody can use one of those heart rate monitors on you, or you can get one in the CVS, and get your resting heart rate, and you want to make that go up about 30 beats per minute. So say your resting heart rate is around 60. If you exercise at a heart rate of 90 beats per minute, that's going to do it. You want to get your heart pumping and get that muscle stronger, and that's the purpose of cardiovascular exercise. Anyway, a combination of moderate and vigorous intensity exercises is recommended. This is another way of gauging how hard you're working. I wish I had a better slide, actually. It looked better on there. But this is the rating of perceived exertion chart. It's a Borg scale. And it goes from 6 to 20. Now, the blue area, or I guess it's blue, is from 6 to 11, and that's really fairly light. I don't think it's going to help. It's really fairly light activity. So it's like walking leisurely around the park. You know, really just taking a light walk where you really don't feel much of a difference in your heart rate and your breathing. Once we get into this green area, 12 to 16, that's where we're really exercising. 12, where now I feel like I'm doing something. I'm moving around, I'm exercising, my heart rate's coming up, starting to sweat. 13, this is definitely exercise. 14, I don't want to do this much longer. I don't think I could keep it up. 15, you wouldn't be able to answer the question. If I said to you, how does this feel to you? and it was a 15, you probably couldn't even answer me because you were working too hard, and I wouldn't want to see you get to that point. And an interesting point of this scale is that when it was first designed, that 6 to 20 number correlated, if you added a 0 next to those numbers, it correlated to where your heart rate would be when you reached that level, or of that perceived exertion. In other words, if I was exercising on a treadmill and I said, I'm working somewhat hard, my heart rate would be around 130. And of course, it's not the same for everybody, but that's how they pick those numbers. It correlates to your heart rate. The talk test. What did I just say before? If I'd asked you how you were working and you couldn't answer, I know you were working too hard. This talk test has been around for a long time. If you can just talk, you were just about at the right exercise intensity. Back in 1939, Professor John Grayson at Oxford University advised English mountaineers to climb no faster than they could talk. This simple idea kept kicking around the fringes of exercise physiology, and we still use it today. Ongoing research confirms that the talk test is a valuable tool for monitoring and controlling exercise intensity. So when I'm standing next to you on the treadmill, Dr. Bright, and talking to you, a lot of it has to do with I'm just checking to see how you're doing. Because some people won't say, you know, it's too hard, and I'll hear it in their breathing. So talk test is very valuable. Okay, time, duration. How long should I exercise? The guidelines are, you want to burn about 1,000 calories a week, and that equates to about 150 minutes. And all these are about, because there's lots of calculations when it comes to calories. And don't look at the machines in the gyms, because they're never right. A basic rule of thumb when it comes to walking and running. If you walk for 1 mile, you're going to burn approximately, a 150-pound person will burn approximately 100 calories. If you run that same mile, you'll burn around 125, 150. Now, a larger person will burn more calories because it's more work on the body to carry that weight around. That's not necessarily a good thing. Yes, they do burn more calories, but I'd rather burn less. So that's just a quick rule of thumb. And even bicycling, a mile, you're going to burn about 30 calories when you bicycle a mile, and that's stationary or outdoor biking. And that's just a general rule of thumb. So minimum will be 150 minutes per week, 30 minutes. It could be 30 minutes a day or 3 days at 50 minutes. For promoting and sustaining weight loss. Now that's a different topic. If you want to exercise to lose weight, good luck. Because it takes a lot of time to exercise. If you're just doing it purely by exercise, then we're talking at least an hour a day. Talking about trying to burn 2,000 calories per week, between 250 to 300 minutes per week, so 50 to 60 minutes per day. So that goes over that guideline of not exercising more than 5 days a week. But that's for a goal of weight loss. Combining the two, watching your diet, and exercising is the way to go. When people start coming to us at the Cardiac Health Center, they say, well, I've been exercising for 3 weeks and I haven't lost a pound. Well, have you changed your diet? Go see the dietitian. That's another story. So yes, it will over time, because you're now burning more calories than you were before. Over time, you will see the weight loss, but don't expect to just do it with the exercise, because you will burn out. Okay, types of exercise, so mode of exercise. Cardiovascular endurance exercise to improve cardiovascular fitness. That's your treadmills and your bicycles. That's using your large muscle groups to get your heart rate up. I like to equate exercising your heart with pumping a bicep. So when we use a weight and we pump that bicep, that's building the bicep. And the heart is a muscle, right, Dr. Mustafakas? So we want it to pump and get stronger. We don't want it to get too strong, but we want it to get stronger. So that heart rate going up, and more is not always better, so it's within those guidelines. That's how we strengthen the heart muscle. And a strong heart muscle is an efficient heart. It's an efficient pump. That's what we're shooting for when it comes to cardiovascular endurance exercise. Resistance exercise is very important. That's strength training. When it comes to resistance exercise and strength training, we're not talking about Arnold Schwarzenegger, who doesn't quite look like that anymore anyway. But we're not talking about becoming bodybuilders. That's a tremendous amount of work. We're talking about strength training to keep our independence, to keep our balance. We have to work our muscles. As we get older, our muscles atrophy. It's just a normal aging process. You may be the same weight you were, if you are, you're very lucky, 20 years ago, but your body composition is not the same. You're going to have more fat mass on you than lean mass. That's just a fact of life. So we have to try and fight that by resistance training. Okay, the goals of a health-related resistance training program are to make activities of daily living less stressful and to prevent chronic diseases again, such as osteoporosis, type 2 diabetes, and obesity. If you have more muscle on your body is more metabolically active. The muscle is more metabolically active than fat tissue. So just to keep your muscles alive, keep them going, they take more calories. So when you have more lean mass on you, you actually burn more calories just by sitting in that chair than you do if you have more fat mass on you. Osteoporosis. Strength training helps to build bones. You have to stretch your bones. And how do you stretch your bones? By using your muscles. Your muscles are attached to your bones. When the muscle pulls on the bone, your bone remodels. And that's how you keep strong bones. Resistance training is key when it comes to osteoporosis. Type 2 diabetes. There's a lot of literature out there now saying that strength training, how it helps to grab that glucose out of your blood when you're insulin resistant, which is type 2 diabetes. You have insulin in your system, but it's resistant to the glucose. The muscles take in that glucose. So your sugar levels are much better by resistance training and exercise in general. Flexibility exercise. Stretching improves range of motion, improves flexibility. Who in here has arthritis? Oh, come on, there's more of you, including me. Unfortunately, we see a lot of arthritis. If you don't move and if you don't stretch, you're going to be in worse shape because the joints get very stiff. And I always call it a double-edged sword. It hurts to get them moving, but it's going to hurt a lot more if you don't move them and you become stiff. So again, we see that all the time at the Cardiac Health Center. So, cardiovascular exercise, 3 to 5 days per week, 50 to 60 minutes per day for health and fitness. Resistance exercise, training each muscle group, 2 to 3 days per week with 48 hours of rest in between workouts for resistance training. Stretching and flexibility can be done 10-minute durations, done at least 2 to 3 days per week. You can work on your flexibility every day and your balance if you wanted to. 10 minutes is fine. Okay, so how much time do we spend sitting? This is an interesting one. I don't like the looks of that guy. Okay. This was a study done in the Journal of Sports Medicine, Sports Exercise. Continued sedentariness, change in sitting time and mortality in older adults. So the more we sit, what do you think is going to happen? Well, here's the line, the nice black line over there, people that aren't sedentary, and that little dotted line over there are people that are sedentary, most sedentary. Now, you'll see that the rate of mortality goes up with that physical activity, or goes down, you know what I mean. Conclusion, compared with older adults who were consistently sedentary during 2 years, consistently non-sedentary, and there's that word, consistently, non-sedentary individuals showed reduced all-cause mortality. Individuals who changed sitting time experienced an intermediate reduction in mortality. Sit less, move more. That's the bottom line, right? This is kind of a nasty slide, but it says it. Get moving or die sooner. Physical inactivity has been named the biggest public health crisis of the 21st century. And many doctors are now diagnosing it as a disease. Could you imagine this is going to be a disease now, physical inactivity? There'll be a code for that. Inactivity is the most easily prevented and curable disease you can get, so why is it also one of the deadliest? And why is it so hard for us to get people moving and keep them moving? I haven't figured that one out yet. I'm working on it. So I wanted to end on a positive note. So you got to move it or you're going to lose it. So join the fun. These are people that exercise, not at our center, but nice, pretty people on the internet. But we have tons of people walking in and out of our doors at the Cardiac Health Center. And I'm not here just to advertise the Cardiac Health Center. I'm here to get all of you moving and exercising. Again, so that you don't, Dr. Moustakakis doesn't see you coming into his lab. And I don't necessarily see you coming in after a cardiac event, but hopefully before to try and prevent. So get moving, stay moving. Thank you very much, and I hope that